everyone. My name is Lisa from the Here and There Collective. I'm super excited to come to you today from the studio of Kai O. Kai is a New York-based artist, and we are here on this rainy afternoon in New York to see what Kai's been up to.
Hi,
Welcome.
thanks for coming by. I'm Kai. I'm from Korea, Seoul, and I've been in New York for 2 years now, and in this studio for 2 months, so it's pretty new. Well, I primarily work with photography, especially exploring what the digital images could do with its fluidity, and how it could expand its boundaries of the medium.
I love that because when I was doing that very brief intro, I hesitated in calling you a photographer. So I said artist because I think especially what I'm seeing in the studio, like what you're doing with photography and images is so much more than that. And so I'm very excited to kind of delve into how you're expanding those boundaries through, the work that you're working on here. But I guess kind of as an initial question to your practice, when you're thinking about those boundaries of photography and sort of bringing the digital image into a more physical space, how are you kind of thinking about the image originally? Like, are you thinking about it as a particular medium, or how do you kind of choose those images that you're pulling into your works?
So I have a whole piles of my iPhone photos. I especially take my photos with iPhone because I'm very drawn to its characteristic of the optics of the iPhone's lenses and how it influences the consumption of the images. So also it's very convenient and quick. So iPhone, I have the whole piles of the images or photography, but it's always confusing which word I should use because I see one photo is a paint, sort of, with it's a composition, it's a combination of the textures, or it could be colors. So I can always pull out different characteristic of one image.
I think it's interesting that you're thinking not so much about what the image is capturing, but more the qualities that it brings. And that's an interesting analogy that you think of it almost like paint, especially because you actually use paint as well in some of your work. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in this work?
So this work is called The Final Chapter, and I wanted to talk about complex and intertwined state. My main focus on this work was balancing what to reveal and what to hide. I thought a lot of how the digital images could work with the painting layers. Because with the painting layers, it's directly projecting my bodily experience, whereas photography always works through the device, which has a strong characteristics. Also, with the lights and a little bit of sculptural elements around the stretcher, I wanted to question the very traditional way of showing the surface.
I'm very curious about this one here, which is right next to it, when we're talking about the manipulation of images and how you're, using it as a medium to put it together. Can you tell me a little bit about this work?
with this work, I focused on the subject of flower and a tree, the trunk of the tree. Usually I would take a longer time to collage different images together, but for this one, I wanted to keep it very minimal and not going too crazy about it. So with this white flower and bees, it's not really colorful compared to what I'm usually working on. I edited very little, but asked Photoshop to do the autofill and create the form with the images using the original material.
That's so interesting because I'm noticing there's like a little bit of like what maybe like it's even a glitch. Is that coming from the Photoshop tool as well?
Yeah, definitely it is. It is the glitch from the Photoshop. So the computer and the program would make glitch. And you never know when it's gonna happen, and it's a part of the digital program.
It's almost as if you are sort of having a conversation with Photoshop almost and presenting that as, you know, as a collaboration almost between the two, which I find very interesting in this work. Great, so I think across the way, I'm very drawn to these glass works. Tell me a little bit about what's going on here.
It's called Inwards Outwards, and for this, I wanted to talk about the filtering and the reflection. So again, for the digital device, what's on the screen tend to stay in flux and very easy to manipulate and very fast. With this little fragmented glasses, I saw this as a metaphor of those screens. And with the glass surface, I wanted to show what's really reflected with its physicality. Also, another thing about what's in the screen is that it seems it's as if it's weightless. For that, I wanted to engage more with the gravity itself. So these glass pieces are taped only on the top, so it might actually fall off after some time.
And do you intend if they fall like to the bottom of the frame, it should just rest there? Very interesting. I love the idea of the work kind of changing over time as well. And I'm drawn to sort of this, it's really a motif of the fisheye that's sort of placed in a lot of these images. And I think as I look around the room, I think eyes are really a motif that you hone into as sort of an image that you keep manipulating, keep returning to. Can you tell me a little bit about what draws you to that?
I think the eyes are the strongest organ that reveals the vitality. So, because through eyes, you feel like you're really connected. So I would observe the fish in the aquarium, no matter if it's a pet fish or if it's the fish in front of the Chinese restaurant. I mean, it's also funny that the fish has different purpose, also very human-centric way of seeing it. So I think, that's reflected on, that kind of idea is reflected on those eyes, the human-centric point of view.
You were saying earlier that this image, you took this in Istanbul.
Yeah.
How does sort of location play into or influence the work? Because it seems like you are one who has lived a lot of lives. You took these images in Istanbul, you're based in New York, you were in Seoul, Berlin. Like, how do you feel like that sort of changed your practice and sort of the images that you're using?
I love the question because my constant relocation really affected my thinking a lot, especially that seeing how the terms of relative like freedom or diversity, even identity could mean so much different, thinking where you are. Because of that, I think I tend to think more of this relativity rather than term itself, because it could only valid in one location. So yeah, I think that definitely connects to the point that I'm drawn to this natural elements and the nature that's in the urban city.
And it's almost interesting that you're honing in on urban cities when I feel like a lot of your subjects are of nature, right? You know, animals, fish, grass, leaves, plants. So it's an interesting perspective to your point of thinking about how different locations give you different perspectives, and yet there's a universality to the images, right? You know, it being recognizable to anyone to a certain degree. Do you let yourself be surprised by kind of what comes out of this collaboration with, you know, Photoshop, with airbrushing, with painting, or do you try to, in a way, be very intentional with sort of how the end result kind of lays on the paper or the canvas or what have you?
So I never know. In most cases, I don't have a fixed blueprint, but it of course depends on the project or different type of work. But most of the time, I'm very much enjoying the improvisations. I do think about the whole arrangement of the colors or composition or how to break that composition and so on.
That's almost like an interesting juxtaposition of what one traditionally thinks of like a digital medium, which is very calculated and like intentional of like it goes here, it goes there, and then imbuing it with this, you know, intuitiveness, this improvisation directly on the physical object.
I think that's the most interesting part or the big benefit of working with the digital materials, because I can always go back and do it again or, you know, play around very quickly, and like there from that a lot of variations are made and I can choose and re-edit it. So I think that's the benefit of the digital media. Yeah.
Well, Kai, thank you so much for having us in your studio. Really loved learning more about you and your practice and some of the works in the room. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming, and I'm really happy to introduce my studio and my works. It's first time, so yeah, thank you so much.